So you said your dad was imprisoned.
Yes.
What's the story behind that? Why was he imprisoned?
So after the war, the communists took over Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
the South Vietnam. And they had this, what they call the re-education camp.
Okay.
Anybody who have worked in the previous regime has to go to this camp where they can, quote unquote, re-educate them in the way of the communist. So I remember my parents tells me, especially my mother, she said after the war, it was very scary. Tragedy. A lot of people died during the war. At any time, in your town, in your home, family would hold their breath because any time the family can come home with the news that your son has passed.
Wow.
And when the communists took over, everybody who worked in the previous government knew that at any point they can come and get you to go to the re-education camp or prison.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom said it was a tough time because early in the morning before the sun set, he would leave the house and go out to the farm and work there. And he doesn't come home until the sun already set. It was a tough time. Tough time. At that time, there was my the first 4 boys. So mom was home and, so husband, because of the situation, he would leave and he didn't come back until at night. And he would live in this fear that anytime they can come and take you.
Because of his history of working for being in service
he was in
with
the Air Force, yeah.
Yes.
He was an officer in the Air Force. So, but the time came when they asked him to report himself. So he did, and he was in the refugee camp. And so mom was home by herself, caring for the children. And that came, so he come back on and off, and later he went, so the total about 5 years that he was.
And now I'm assuming that the re-education camp is just, another name for, was he tortured?
It was prison. The second time he was around he was tortured because our family tried, in 1984, the whole family tried to find a way to escape Vietnam by boat.
Mm-hmm.
And we left Vietnam. We were on the ocean for like a week and the engine died. And it kept floating in the ocean and we ran out of food and water. And I remember everybody was literally, we couldn't move. We just on the floor of the boat.
What kind of boat was this?
It's a small, tiny boat.
Was it just like a
it was
single
a little
engine
kid,
boat?
But single engine boat, maybe 10, 12 feet long and maybe 6 feet wide, just a small boat.
So the type that people go fishing with.
That's right. It's a fishing boat.
Okay.
And the engine died and we're just floating on the ocean. We don't have food. We didn't have water. We could die anytime out of, hunger and thirst. And I remember we were praying very hard, praying. Every once in a while, there a little bit of rain, and then we would try to take a piece of plastic and take any drop of rain we can have, and for the water.
Yeah, because you can't drink the seawater.
That's right. After a while, finally we see this big, huge ship passing by. So with all the strength we had, we were screaming for help. We were waving the white cloth. All the women with little children. My sister was 3 months old at the point.
How many people were on the boat?
I believe there was about 30 or 40 of us. We all crammed in that boat.
Wow.
So the children, they raised the little children. And so the ship turned and came toward us. We were so happy. And they find out it was pretty close to death. So it turned out to be a Russian cargo ship. So they only allowed the women and the children into the ship. They gave us food. I remember the first time. I still remember so clearly. I was so hungry, about to die. They gave us this butter toast. I thought I was in heaven.
Wow.
So they gave us food, and then they sent their mechanic into our boat to fix the engine, and they told the man to keep on going.
Wow.
So we waved goodbye to Dad.
So they
And-
only took the women. And this
then-
was a Russian boat. So
yeah, and at the time, remember in the 80s, they were still communist.
yes.
So what they did was we said goodbye to Dad, and they took us back to Vietnam.
Wow.
And then when they dropped us off to Vietnam, the communists came, put us in a truck, and drove us directly to the prison.
Because you were trying to escape Vietnam.
That's right.
How old were you at this point?
At that time, I was 6 years old, right? About 6 years old or so. So my
And your dad?
So my dad, we don't know what happened to our dad.
Wow.
Because we were back. My sister was 3 months old, and I have my other 3 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And Mom, we were in prison.
Wow.
It was terrible because my mom, she was so worried. She has stomach ulcer.
Wow.
And at night, she was in so much pain. We was screaming for help. And there wouldn't be any help. And I remember seeing the prisoner walking. They were left without food, skinny, skin and bones. And we were praying every day. We were in prison for about 2 months and a half.
Why do you think the Russian ship let the men go? Did you think it was a kindness on their
They
part?
didn't want the men to get on the boat, maybe attack them and take the ship or something like that.
I thought maybe
So-
perhaps they figured if we take these men in and bring them, for sure they're going to be executed.
No.
No.
They send him off.
They just said,
Just keep
Good
going.
luck.
Good luck. Keep
Yeah.
going. They give him some food and water. and
okay.
supply. So after about 2 months, a little bit over 2 months, we finally were released. We came home.
And you had no idea what happened to your dad.
No. And
Wow.
when we came back, we found out that Dad's boat continued on. The engine died again, and the wind blew them back to the shore of Vietnam, and he's now in prison.
Wow. How many days were you on the boat before that big Russian boat came along?
I can't remember exact, but it would be at least probably about a week.
A week
before we saw,
on
yeah.
the
On the
with
shore.
very little food.
Yeah. It was terrible.
That's amazing.
And we came back, and I remember very clearly when we found out that it was devastating. And my grandpa, he's such a man of faith,
Was he with you on the boat?
No, he was the one that stayed back to keep the house.
Okay.
So when we came back, because if we had gone with us, that house would be confiscated, would be gone.
Yeah, the government would have taken.
And
yeah.
Grandpa, such a man of faith. He took our hands. At that time, nothing left. Right, we'd have to start from scratch. Dad is in prison. Mom came back. All the money we had, we invested in taking that trip, so we had nothing left. He took our hands before the Blessed Mother, and we just prayed together. So then after that, Mom was just working 3 or 4 jobs, staying up sometime to 3 or 4 in the morning.
Because your dad was in prison.
Dad was in prison, trying to rebuild our life and put food on the table for the 3 kids, and go to visit Dad whenever she's allowed to do so. Yeah.
Wow.
That time around, that prison was really rough. That's when Dad was really
He was tortured at that point.
beat up. And
Did he ever tell you about the things that they did to him while he was in prison?
oh gosh, he said when he was taken to prison, he said the beating. He said I remember the word he used was like, it was like a volleyball. You put you in the middle, and they beat him up and push him to, punch, and it was like a ball being played.
Wow.
And he said, but through it all, God saved him. Yeah, the only thing he always, whenever he tells his story, is gratitude that in the end, God is with us. He said, they beat me up, they locked me up, arms to arm and leg to leg with other prisoners, and but God is always. He said, I always have faith. He said, one point as he was being locked, the prison guard came in and said, which one of you is Catholic?
Oh boy.
No one said a word. And Dad said, I have to. So he said, I am Catholic.
Uh-huh.
Come. So everybody thought that that's the end of his life. They drag him away to see the guard, the head. Are you Catholic? He said, yes. And he said, they asked him all these questions. He said, I remember the Lord say, when they drag you out before the authority, do not worry because I will give you the word to say. And he said, just beautifully, word just came out in such a way. And after they interrogated him for a while, they sent him back. He said, miraculously, nothing happened to him. And everybody thought, wow, how is that possible that, nothing happened to him? Yeah.
That is a real test of your faith to be able to say, yes, I am Catholic. You're probably going to kill me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But he said, always trust God. Always trust God. And he always be with us.
Did he know at this point that you were still alive, that you were in Vietnam?
He has no idea what happened to us. Just like we had no idea what happened to him. Eventually, we were able to be connected and we were able to allow to visit him a few times a year for just a few minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So he's in prison. He doesn't know what happened to his family at all, whether they survived or not, whether they were killed or whatever. And there he is in prison, just trying to stay alive and to have the faith to go on and the strength.
Right. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And later we were allowed to visit him, I remember. And she was my mother. She's a little bitty woman, you can tell from her son. Small in stature, but such a strong woman. I have so much love and admiration for my mother. And when she was allowed to visit my father, you allowed to bring some food to bring it to him. So she would travel for days as a young woman. She would travel for days, and then they would drop her off right outside the wood, and she would have to carry these stuffed food and clothes that she was going to give to my dad, and walk through the dark wood to all the way till she finally get to where the prison is.
Wow.
She said, I would go in and I would see your dad. They would only allow me to see your dad for maybe 3 minutes. Sometimes 3 minutes. Sometimes we don't even allow to see him.
Wow.
But I just go there, he said, and I gaze and I saw your dad walking out. And I feel, even though I can't talk to him, but to see his sight, to know that he's still alive.
Yes.
And I come back. Yeah.
That's all you can hope for.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And she had to walk in the dark through the woods because they weren't doing any favors.
And again, with her fate, she said, anything can happen. I was just a young woman.
Oh, yeah, that's
going
right.
Through this,
the soldiers could have easily killed her or raped her or something like that.
Anything could have happened to her, yeah. Wow. But he said God was always with us. Eventually, she was allowed to bring others with her. So my brothers and I, we were able to take turn to go with her. And I remember I went with her once. It's a long, long journey that took days to get there.
Wow.
And when we get there, by the time I go, we were able to literally have dad in the little room, maybe 5 by 5 feet. Came out and we give him the stuff that we brought with us. He would hold me, he would kneel down and hold me on his lap and, would love me. And the only I remember at the end, dad said, so dad, you go home first with mom and dad will come home later. And I came home very excited. Oh, dad's going to come home soon. But it wasn't any time soon. It was a long time. Yeah.
And he would say that each time, huh? Not knowing whether or not he'd see you again.
That's right.
Wow. And when you saw him, did he have bruises or anything? Any signs of the torture?
As a child, I don't remember. All I remember was Dad was there. I was
you were just happy to see him.
So happy to see Dad.
Wow.
And he always put on a smile for me. He was always smile and happy. And Mom just stood there, watch us. It's a precious moment when we know that love. Even distance and prison cannot stop our love for one another.
Did you have any friends or relatives that went through a similar experience?
Oh yeah.
Was it really common?
Of course, Dad's best friend was also
in the service.
Went with us on that trip, and he went through the same thing. And my mom and his wife also, they go together to visit because they were in the
Okay.
same prison. My uncle was also, he worked in the secret police force, and he was in prison for 8 years.
Wow.
His story was sad because he came home. I remember he came home when he was released finally after 8 years out of prison. He went to see his dad, which is my grandfather, who was living at my house.
Uh-huh.
And I remember when they met each other, every night at home, my grandpa made us pray the rosary together. And at the end of the rosary, we always say 3 special Hail Mary for my uncle who was in prison,
Uh-huh.
for my dad, that they will quickly be released, right? My uncle and my dad.
Mhm.
And for my uncle, Father John, who have left Vietnam, when the communists took over in 75, he got on a big ship and was able to leave. So we always pray for those 3. I remember by name. And when my uncle finally came home, I could see my dad came home first, and my uncle was in there for 8 years.
Mm-hmm. How long was your dad in there?
My dad was in a total of 5 years, but the second time around, 2 years.
Okay.
When my uncle came home, gosh, I could see the joy. I like my grandpa and him, they embraced. And we could see that joy, that, wow, finally you're home. We've
The
been
relief
praying for you.
of
Yeah, and he came home to his family. Unfortunately, 2 months after that, he had an accident and he passed away. It was
Oh.
just sad, tough. Tragedy of war, it brings a lot of suffering into our lives.
Do your parents have any other brothers and sisters?
Yeah, they do.
Are they still in Vietnam?
Some of them are still in Vietnam, and some of them are already here in the United States. My uncle and aunts, yeah.